Everyone listens to stories, but we all listen from different places, right? So tell me in the comments, where are you listening from today? And hit subscribe. Some stories are more than just fiction.
The impact crater still burned. Cale Roran tore himself from the mangled cockpit. The edges of his flight suit fused to exposed metal. His HUD was cracked, bleeding static. Warnings screamed across his visor. Oxygen low, left arm fracture, suit integrity compromised. He was alive. Barely. The emergency thrusters had failed seconds before the crash. A full planetary drop with zero stabilization. His ship, the Vanguard Echo, was now a splintered grave behind him, leaking coolant into the dusty wind. Nyrevia, a name buried in decommissioned star charts. Abandoned decades ago after a failed colonization attempt. No comms, no nav relay. No help coming. Cale coughed blood into his helmet and ripped it off, gasping in the planet's thin metallic air. His boots crunched over red sand laced with shattered obsidian. No sound, no movement, just the whining of a dying engine and the soft flicker of a distant storm. Then, he saw her. A flicker. A shape. Watching from the ruins of what looked like a collapsed dome station 200 meters ahead. He raised his pistol with his good arm, eyes narrowing behind the cracked visor. Motionless, shadowed. Another step. Closer. She didn't move. She stood there, barefoot in the dust, wrapped in a cloak patched with torn Ilari silk. Purple eyes locked on his. Eyes filled with something deeper than fear. Something older. Like she had already seen this moment coming. Cale's finger tightened on the trigger. Then she spoke. "You're not Threx Corp," she said. Her voice was raw, unused. A whisper wrapped in defiance. "Not today," Cale rasped. "You live here?" Her eyes flicked past him. "You crashed." "Yeah, I noticed." He collapsed to one knee. Vision doubling. She didn't come closer, and not yet. Instead, she raised her arm and activated a flickering wrist hollow, scanning him. The tech was old, pre-unification, but it worked. "You're human," she said. "So are you." "No," she replied. "Not anymore." Lightning flashed in the distance, sharp, green, unnatural. Atmospheric instability. Radiation, probably. He needed shelter. "You have a dome?" he asked. The girl paused, then turned and walked away. Cale forced himself up and followed, stumbling after the ghost of a child who wasn't a child, across the corpse of a forgotten world. Inside the ruins was a partial biodome collapsed inward like a crushed lung. Vines had grown through shattered metal ribs. Consoles blinked with residual power, running off cracked solar cells. It was cold, silent. She knelt beside a machine and tapped a command. The airlock hissed shut behind him. "You're lucky," she said. "The dust storms eat people who sleep outside." Cale collapsed against a bulkhead, breathing hard. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl hesitated, then, "Nyari?" He nodded. "Kyle." She watched him with alien stillness. Not shy. Calculating. "You're the first human I've seen in 6 years, she finally said. Cale's brow furrowed. "You've been alone here?" She didn't answer. Only walked to a broken console, touched a panel, and projected a holo. A family photo. 2 Ilari scientists. 1 child between them, her. "They left," she said quietly. "They went to find help. They never came back." Cale felt a knot twist in his gut. "How old were you?" 11, she said. The lights dimmed. The wind howled outside. And Cale knew this was no accident. This world, this storm, this girl, they were pieces of something deeper, something waiting beneath the dust. And whatever it was, he had just fallen straight into it. Cale woke to the sound of static, not from his comm, it was dead, but from an old broadcast unit, cracked and rusted, embedded in the dome's interior wall. A looping message. Fragmented voice. Faint and warbled. "Niravaya outpost requesting evac Thalanvayan, Siravayan, anyone." He sat up, pain flaring in his side. His arm was wrapped tightly with improvised gauze. Someone had stabilized him during the night. "Nyari," he muttered. She was sitting cross-legged across the dome back to him, staring at a crystal embedded in a containment case. A data crystal glowing faint blue beneath years of dust. Cale stood limping toward her. "That message, those names. Your parents?" She didn't turn. They sent that when the station lost contact with Central Command. But no one came. Cale nodded. He could hear the edge in her voice. Not sorrow, discipline. A soldier's restraint learned too early. She finally looked at him. Your military, Frontera Command, Outer Patrol, was supposed to rendezvous with a cargo hauler. Got ambushed. Someone fed ThrexCorp my route. Nyari's eyes narrowed. You were being hunted. Still am, she stood. Walked to the other side of the dome and pulled a tarp off a wall terminal. Dozens of maps and schematics projected into the air. Research stations, mining routes, ThrexCorp symbols marked in red. My parents weren't just scientists, she said. They found something. Deep in the vaults below Narivia Prime. Something the ThrexCorp board wanted buried. Kyle's gaze locked on a pulsing red circle marked Draven Station. That's where they went? Nyari nodded. They thought they could sneak in, grab the core data, and send it off-world. But the storm hit. Comms died. They never came back. Kale exhaled. How did you survive here all this time? She tilted her head slightly. They trained me. For what? She activated another console. The dome's lights dimmed, and an image filled the center of the space. A genetic schematic. Alien. Viral. Engineered. Kyle felt a chill crawl down his spine. Terraforming pathogens, Nyari said. Designed to target specific DNA markers. Wipe entire species off a planet, one strain at a time. ThrexCorp was testing it here. On fauna. On colonists. On us, Kale clenched his jaw. Selective extinction, she nodded. And once the planet's clean, they sell it to the highest bidder. Custom-built biospheres for elite clients. Zero resistance. Maximum profit, Kale paced, adrenaline rising. And the data crystal? Holds the original research. And the counteragent my mother designed. He stopped. You're sitting on the only antidote in the sector. That's why I've stayed hidden. That's why they never stopped scanning this planet. They don't want survivors. They want silence. A new sound cut through the air. Engines. Nyari turned sharply. A flicker of light bloomed on the horizon. A sleek transport descending fast. Too smooth for scavengers, too polished for accident. Kale grabbed his pistol. Someone found us. Nyari didn't move. Her expression shifted. Not fear. Recognition. Valera, she whispered. Kale raised an eyebrow. Who? Nyari didn't answer. She only walked to the airlock, cloak fluttering behind her. She's not here for the crystal, she said. Kyle followed, gun raised. What's she here for? Nyari's voice was quiet. Steady. Too steady. Me. The transport touched down with surgical precision, kicking up red dust in a spiral of wind. Kale positioned himself near the shattered edge of the biodome, pistol ready, body tense. His pulse climbed as the hatch hissed open. She stepped out like she owned the planet. Valera Kane. Tall, composed, wrapped in sleek exosilk that shimmered between indigo and obsidian. Her hair, a cascade of black metal threads, moved like liquid. Eyes silver. Unreadable, not ThrexCorp. Not entirely. Nyari, she called, smiling. Still playing Ghost in the ruins? Nyari stood in full view, arms crossed, chin high. You're late, Valera laughed, low, sultry, calculated. And you're still alive. That's a miracle. Kale moved in behind Nyari, his presence unspoken but obvious. Valera's gaze shifted. Ah, a soldier. Let me guess. Crash-landed, wounded, noble complex? You humans always show up with impeccable timing. Kyle didn't lower his weapon. What do you want here? She ignored the question and walked forward slowly, hands raised, no visible weapons. I'm here to offer a deal. One that doesn't end with everyone vaporized or sold to organ markets. I'm quite fond of you, Nyari. You know that. You sold my parents' location to ThrexCorp, Nyari said, voice cold. I read the logs. You traded them for an off-world passport. Valera stopped. And I regret it. You always regret things once someone has a gun. Kyle stepped between them. We don't have time for history. Start talking or get back in your ship. Valera's smile faded just slightly. Fine. You're holding a data crystal that could shatter the biotech monopoly across 3 star sectors. Half the board wants it destroyed. The other half wants it weaponized. I'm the only one offering a third option. Kale narrowed his eyes. And what's that? Valera looked directly at Nyari. Give it to me. I can get it off-world, secure it. Spread the counteragent anonymously. No bloodshed. No war. You mean profit, Kale growled. Valera didn't deny it. Of course. But some profits change the game. Sometimes the villain saves the world because it pays better than destroying it. Kyle didn't trust her, but something in her voice, in the tension behind her words, rang true. She wasn't lying. Not entirely. Night fell fast on Neravia, cold and sharp. They moved into the dome, sat around a weak thermal coil. Kale kept his weapon close, eyes locked on Valira as she unpacked a small satchel with comms, forged IDs, off-world signal relays. "We'll need to hit Draven Station," she said. "If Thalen and Sira are still alive, that's where they'll be." Niari's hands tightened into fists. "You think they're alive?" "I think ThrexCorp doesn't kill scientists who hold secrets they can't decode." Silence. Kyle finally spoke. "We go together. No side deals. No sabotage." Valira tilted her head. "Are you always this direct?" Kale didn't blink. "Always." Later, after the dome dimmed and Niari slept curled near the heat coil, Kale found Valira leaning against the metal ribs of the structure, staring into the storm beyond. "You're good at lying," he said. "I'm better at surviving." He studied her for a moment. "Why come back?" She didn't look at him. "Because I left a girl behind once, alone, waiting for people who never returned." Her eyes shimmered, not from tears, but from reflection. "You'll have to earn her trust again." "I'm not here for trust, then what are you here for?" She turned to him, slow and close. "You," she said, and kissed him. Kale woke before the others. Blaster in hand, heart still echoing the kiss. Valira lay close but not touching. Eyes closed, expression unreadable even in rest. Niari was already gone. He found her outside, crouched near a ridge, scanning the horizon. Her jaw was clenched tight, shoulders stiff. "They're alive," she said before he spoke. "I know it." Kel knelt beside her. "Then we're getting them out." The three of them departed before sunrise. Valira led through the canyons, navigating a network of maintenance tunnels beneath the rusted crust of Neravia. Forgotten infrastructure from a colony that never thrived. The air was thick with dust and decay. Kale walked point. Niari followed with the crystal secured in a pulse-shielded pouch. Valira moved like a shadow, quiet, dangerous, unpredictable. They reached a junction near the old rail system. Valira signaled for silence. Kale scanned movement. 10 hostiles. ThrexCorp mercs in black armor, visors red, scanning for heat signatures. Kale turned to Niari. "You keep going. Get to Draven. Use the access codes she gave you." "We'll draw them off." Niari shook her head. "No, I'm not leaving." Kale grabbed her hand. "You're the only one who can use the crystal. You're the reason this matters. Go." For a moment she held his gaze, then nodded. Kale and Valira split left into the tunnels, triggering proximity mines behind them. Blasts echoed through the passageways, collapsing paths, drawing attention. Kale fired controlled bursts, dropping mercs with precision. Valira flanked the rear, blades flashing as she silenced anyone who got too close. The pursuit was relentless. One merc detonated a plasma charge, igniting the tunnel wall. The air shimmered with heat. Kale tackled Valira behind a metal barrier as fire rolled over them. He winced, bleeding from the leg. She looked at him, breathing hard. "I thought you didn't trust me," she said. "I don't," Kale growled. "But you fight like hell." They pushed deeper. Mercs regrouped. A voice echoed over the tunnel PA, a synthesized tone, cold and smug. "Return the crystal. Surrender the Aelari girl. Your deaths will be painless." Kale spit blood and raised his rifle. "Come get us." Meanwhile, Niari moved through a maintenance shaft no wider than her shoulders. Dust clung to her skin, the crystal warm against her chest. She reached the inner wall of Draven Station, overriding a rusted panel with her mother's code. The door hissed open. Inside, a lab, intact. Flickering lights, and 2 figures, her parents, emaciated, restrained but alive. Her voice cracked. "Mom?" Sira turned slowly. Her eyes widened. "Niari?" Thailand stared, disbelief and awe frozen in his expression. They embraced, years of fear vanishing in one impossible moment. "I have the crystal," Niari whispered. Sira's hands shook as she reached for it. "You kept it safe all this time?" "I waited," Niari said, voice breaking. "I waited for you." Suddenly alarms blared. "External breach detected." Kale's voice came through a short-range band. "They're coming in fast. Hold position." Niari's hands flew across the console. "We can override the internal defenses. Reroute the power to seal off the lower levels." Sira looked at her. "Are you sure?" "I'm done waiting." Outside, Kale and Valira fought side by side. Smoke, plasma, explosions. Then, silence. The last merc fell, screaming into the fire. Kyle leaned against the wall, gasping. Valira dropped beside him, bleeding. "You still standing?" she asked. "Barely." And then the door to Draven opened. Nyari stepped out. Behind her, her parents. Kale smiled. "Nice timing," he said. "You're late," Nyari replied. The cure was real. Thalen held the glowing vial between trembling fingers. The counteragent his wife had engineered over a decade ago. Now finally complete with the genetic data embedded in the crystal Nyari had guarded all these years. Kale watched as Syra loaded the formula into a deployable canister, designed to release the restorative spores into Nerivia's atmosphere. One shot, one chance. If it worked, the toxins would be neutralized and the planet, and every species it was meant to kill, would begin to heal. Outside, the mercenaries were gone. Their ship smoked on the horizon. Valira limped beside Kale, her arm in a brace, her mouth set in a grim line. "They'll send more," she said. "ThrexCorp won't let this go." Kale looked toward the sky, where dawn was breaking over the dead hills. "Then we give them something to choke on." They launched the canister from the old mining relay station. It arced into the air with a trail of green light, vanishing into the upper atmosphere. For several minutes, nothing. Just wind. Dust. Then the clouds began to shift. The red sky turned gold. The wind stilled. And the first droplets fell. Warm, luminescent, alive. Nyari stepped outside the dome, her parents behind her. She reached out a hand and caught one of the glowing drops in her palm. It shimmered, then sank into her skin without a trace. She gasped. "It's working," Syra whispered. All around them, the land began to stir. Cracked soil pulsed. Faint green veins pushed through the rust-colored surface. Roots, vines, tendrils of life, sprouting from ground that had been silent for years. The air grew thicker, richer. Kale could taste oxygen again. A single flower bloomed beside his boot. Valira stared, stunned. "That's impossible." "No," Kale said. "That's hope." Within hours, the message went out. The counteragent was secure. The ThrexCorp plan had failed. Other ruined worlds, test sites, poisoned zones, sterilized colonies, would receive the cure next. And the name of the transmission's origin? Nerivia, where a girl had waited alone, where a soldier had fallen from the sky, and where the galaxy learned that not all buried stories stay dead. A week later, Kale stood beside a new command post, makeshift, temporary, but buzzing with activity. Terraforming drones flew overhead. Relief crews worked in shifts. Scientists arrived in waves, and Nyari, now wearing a field jacket 3 sizes too big, directed a team of techs restoring power to a nearby satellite tower. She was no longer a shadow in the ruins. She was the one rebuilding them. Kyle approached her. "They want you to speak at the treaty conference," he said. Nyari glanced up. "What would I say?" "That you waited. And you were right too," she smiled softly. Nearby, Valira leaned against a transport crate, her hair pinned back, arms folded. Kale walked over to her. "You could have run," he said. "I thought about it." "And?" "I looked back," she said. "And you were still there." Kale nodded. "They offered me a promotion." "Command post." "Outer ring. You take it?" He shook his head. "I'm staying here." Valira raised an eyebrow. "Why?" He looked out at the green spreading across red soil. At Nyari laughing as her father tried to explain old tech to a new generation. "Because something bloomed here," Kyle said. "And I want to make sure it grows." Valira smiled. "Slow and real this time. You humans," she said, "always planting things in the ashes. Someone has to." And for the first time in years, Kyle Roran didn't feel like a weapon. He felt like a seed,